You've just landed Inside LaunchStreet, the innovation podcast, where we interview top innovators out there shaking things up so you can innovate and differentiate and get further, faster in this crazy, cluttered world. And now, innovation thought leader and your Superfly host, Tamara Kleinberg.
Hola, LaunchStreeters. Tamara here, host of Inside LaunchStreet. All right, you probably hear some weird music in the background. I am traveling the globe right now for keynoting. It's that time of year, and I'm coming to you from a cafe basement. I am in this room that looks like, I don't know, a vampire porn room or something. It's all dark red and velvety walls, but that's probably a different podcast. Today, I got to talk to Jeff Platt. Jeff is the president and CEO of SkyZone trampoline parks, aka experiential fun parks. You probably have some in your area because the company has gone global. And yes, I have been there for an adult birthday party, but that's a story for another time. Jeff has incredible insights around building a business, how he thinks about innovation. I found the part about solving today's challenges versus creating tomorrow's opportunities particularly interesting, and I think you will too. Yeah, this one's going to leave you thinking a little bit. Enjoy. Jeff, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm looking forward to digging in. So let's start with, tell our LaunchStreet listeners a little bit about the inspiration for SkyZone and where you are today as a business so they have some context for the conversation.
Yeah, so SkyZone created a new category in the entertainment space. And really what we're all about is getting people to play more, but doing it more through active entertainment experiences. And what started as a single location in Las Vegas in 2004 has turned into a bit of a global phenomenon with over 185 locations today, now operating in 8 different countries. So a lot of growth in the business. This past year, we'll have close to 25 million people go through our doors and play our way, as we like to say. So it's been a fun ride and an exciting growth story.
So I have to ask, because that's a pretty fast, accelerated growth rate. Why do you think it became such a global phenomenon so quickly?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. One, I think that over time, especially in the last 5 years or so, but there's been a lot of emphasis on the need for people to be more active, especially youth. Obesity is something that's been growing tremendously year over year, and we can't figure out a way to turn that sort of trend around. So there's a lot of publicity, and I think people are constantly hearing, especially parents, that you need to get your kids more active. So when parents have entertainment choices, which they have a lot of them today, and it's do my kids go to the movies or do they go bowling? I think more and more they're looking at a visit to a place like SkyZone as, well, my kid's going to be active and they're going to be sweating and they're going to be moving around. And so that's good for our business. And it's something that's exciting and we like about our business is we're doing good. We're getting people moving. And I think there's also, with this whole retail sort of shift and people buying more online, people that are going out of their homes and they're spending money more and more so they're doing it for entertainment. So location-based entertainment concepts are benefiting a little bit from the Amazons of the world. So I think those two things combined are really fueling the growth. And of course, we like to believe the business is really fun. Everybody loves jumping up and down, being free from gravity. It's almost, we like to thank mattress companies because we feel like they breed customers for us. Every child likes to jump up and down on a mattress, and we've got a basically a park that they can do that in.
It's funny. I just was yelling at my kids last night to get off the bed because they keep jumping. I have 2 boys. They're 13 and 9, and they jump on the bed all the time. And I parent by exhaustion. So if my choice is a movie theater or a SkyZone, I'm going to SkyZone. But you said something kind of interesting in there that I just want to touch on for LaunchStreeters out there. You had mentioned there's a lot of entertainment options. They could go to the movies, right? They could go bowling. They could go to SkyZone. What I appreciate about what you said is it's not necessarily that you're just competing against other activity, fun, experiential places, but you're competing against all the things that we could do with our kids, with our families.
Yeah, we even compete against going to the park. So anything fun is a big category and entertainment is a big category. And we live in a world today where convenience is extremely important and people are looking for things to do that are convenient. And there's a lot of competition out there in every business, and ours is no different.
So you had mentioned that you were, ones that actually really helped create this category of active fun or experiential category. What are some of the challenges that you faced when trying to carve new paths and doing something that hadn't been done before?
Yeah, the really exciting thing about doing something that hasn't been done before is you get to define it. You get to educate the market on what it is. And that is exciting, and that is cool, and that lets you really pave the way. The flip side of that is it requires a lot of education. What is good about it is also challenging about it. You're bringing a new to the world experience to the market, and you've got to create your messaging. You've got to figure out a way to resonate with your consumer. There was no book that we could point to say this is how you operate or run a trampoline park, versus if you were opening up a pizza shop or a new sandwich shop. We had to create everything organically from scratch. So that was exciting and fun, but it was also the same thing that was exciting and fun was also really challenging to do.
So where did you look for inspiration or just thinking around how to do something so new? Did you look outside your category to, I don't even know what, but.
No, we honestly, we looked to our customers. We're big believers in listening to, I shouldn't say customers, I should say guests, because that's what we refer to them as. But we look to our guests in our parks for inspiration on what we should be doing differently, better, worse, where our opportunities are. A good example of that was in our first couple of months of being open for business. Some kids came into our park, they brought a ball, and they started throwing the ball at each other on our trampolines. And this was just after the movie Dodgeball came out.
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Yeah, but we said to them, we said, guys, you can't do that up here. And they said, well, why? We want to play dodgeball. And we said, oh, that's a good idea. So we started to organize dodgeball games. And then that was just in our first park in Las Vegas. Dodgeball became so popular that all of a sudden, as we started to expand, we built dedicated dodgeball courts. And dodgeball is now the most popular activity in our parks. So our inspiration came from looking at our customers, looking at our guests and saying, what do you like? What do you want? What are we doing well? What ideas do you have for us to bring new experiences into the park? That's where a lot of our inspiration comes from.
I just have to pause for a second for people listening, because I so appreciate what you're saying about constantly asking your customers or listening and watching them, because to really what you're saying is they have the answers for you, the problems that they face, the things that they love, the things they try to do. Here's my question for you back, especially now that you're so big, and I'm guessing that listening to customers is still a part of how you do business. How do you then take that and incorporate it into new ideas or into the company itself?
Yeah, it's a good question. We do it now more than ever. We have several different ways we listen. One of them is through this sort of classic traditional email survey after you visit our parks, where we get a lot of insights about what people didn't like or did like about their experience. And it's a great way for us to monitor what's happening inside of our parks. So we've learned through that program that cleanliness of bathrooms, something that is so incredibly obvious, drives loyalty. But at the same time, we learned we weren't doing a good job. So that for us informed an initiative this year to revamp our entire cleaning program at our parks, with a heavy focus on making sure we have something so simple like clean bathrooms. On the other side of the coin, we do that form of sort of research and listening is about what are we doing today, where are our opportunities today. We do another form of research where we work with a company called C-Space, which is a fantastic company out of Boston. And we do heavy, really in-depth qualitative research with focus groups. So one thing we just recently completed was we want to revamp our entire birthday party program. And this wasn't about what are we not doing well today. This was about sitting with mom and saying, Mom, what can we do better in the future? What do we not offer that you want? So it's not what's broken today, but what do you wish you could have? How can we make your life easier as a mom? And we got little insights out of that. Like, when I pull up to the park, I have a lot of presence in my car. I don't want to have to find a parking spot. Can you reserve a parking spot for me, the birthday mom, that I can pull right up in front when I know my birthday is, when you know that I'm coming for my birthday, so I can unload gifts easily right to the front door? A very simple little thing, but an insight that provides convenience and makes life easier. So we do a lot of listening, and that then informs actions and priorities for the company on a go-forward basis.
And I think what's interesting too is, you're talking about how do we solve today's challenges, maybe the things that aren't working or are working, and also how do we move it to the future as well, which are really two different things. And I think people often get confused when it comes to customer insights in gathering those and figuring out which one is today and which one is what's going to drive us forward.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So I have to ask, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you took the business over when you were 21. Is that right?
Yeah, I was actually 22. I just had turned 22.
So you're barely able to drink and you're taking over this business. What did you learn along the way as you've seen it grow, as you've matured in your experience as well?
Oh man, how much time do we have? A lot. I mean, I could go on and on. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is you can't accomplish anything great in life by yourself. If you want to do great things, if you want to do big things, if you want to grow, you want to expand, you need an amazing team of people around you. I mean, that's true of anything you do in life, but especially in business. And as you go from a small company to a medium-sized company to a big company, it can be hard to let go. It can be hard to empower other people to make key decisions for your business. But you have to. You've got to hire good people, and you've got to empower them and give them the tools and the resources they need to make decisions. And you've got to also be okay with failure. Failure is how you learn and you grow. And if you're not failing, you're not taking risk, you're not taking chance, you're not innovating, and you're not evolving. And if you don't evolve, then you're not going to be around for a long time.
That is so true.
It was learning that. Yeah. So it's learning, hire good people, empower them, and realize that you can't do it on your own. And that's been a lesson that's been I strongly believe in, and I learned very quickly as we were growing.
So I want to dig a little bit into failure, because I think, like innovation, which we'll get into in a second, it's one of those words that a lot of people use, but everybody has different definitions of what that means. Will you share with us how you view failure as you were just talking about it? And do you have an example you could share with us of something that you would put into that category of, hey, we failed, but I'm okay with that because that's part of the process?
Yeah, definitely. So one, I think the word innovation is often misinterpreted, as you said. There's a big difference between being innovative and inventing. Innovation is taking something that exists and making it better. Inventing is creating something totally new. There's a distinct difference, and I think they often sort of get used interchangeably. So we look at innovation as saying, how do we take something and make it better? Something that already exists, a process, a system, an operating procedure, a new attraction in our park, whatever it may be. And on the failure side, man, we've had a lot of failures. One I can most recently think of, we invested a lot of dollars in a technology project. We tried to build a point of sale system, and we tried to do something that wasn't core to our business. We are not in the technology business, but we tried to almost become in the technology business. And that's not core to us. And you always hear in business, only do what your core business is, that focus on that. And we tried to do something outside of that. And I learned the hard way why people say that. We wasted a lot of money. We wasted a lot of time. And in the process, the bottom line was it was a total failure. And we had to pull the plug on a project, which there was nothing to recover from. And it was a good learning experience. There was management learnings in there. There was learnings about how to work with teams. There was learnings about, again, don't take on something that's not core to your business. There's a reason why there's experts for that. Leave it to the experts.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I just did this whole video on Know Your Core. Why, knowing your core is one of the keys to actually being innovative as a company, and why that actually, when you think about Amazon buying Whole Foods, it actually makes sense because it's in their core. It's distribution and delivery. So, but you got to know what your core is. So let's dig a little bit into the innovation side of it, which you kind of started to allude to. I know that you have a big focus in your organization at SkyZone around innovation and people. And it's what constantly, I think, brings you on to the top places to work for the Forbes list, and, has created such a thriving company, as you said. So we've talked a little bit about what innovation is. Talk to me a little bit about how you translate that into company culture. And I think we started touching on it with how you think about failure, but I'd love to hear more, because to me, that is where so many small and large companies fall short. It's not the wanting to be innovative. It's actually knowing how to infuse that into the culture and make it part of it.
Yeah, it's really tough to do. I think it's even something that we do maybe okay, but can do better. As an example, something we don't do today that we're working on trying to do more of is inspiration for innovation should come from those that are working the front lines. We need to get more ideas from our cashiers, our court monitors, our general managers in our parks who are interacting and touching our guests every single day. And I think that's a place that we've fallen short in the past. And so now we're working on programs on how we, as an executive team even, so me in my position, how can I interact with the 17-year-old court monitor that works at a SkyZone 20 hours a week and is interacting with our guests? And so we're working on programs to make sure there's an open two-way communication channel between exec team and people that hold management positions within the company and part-time team members that could be, located in Charleston or Boston while we're sitting here in LA. So I think there's a lot for us to do in that area. That's one of the things. I think something we do fairly well is we take risks and we're willing to invest on people's ideas. And I think the team here is not afraid to bring up ideas. And I think they've learned that it's okay to fail. And you've got to instill that, because if you don't let people know that it's okay to fail, they're not going to take a chance. And innovation is everyone's job. It can't just be delegated to one person. So how do you allow people to bring ideas forward, give them the resources they need in order to try and sort of implement or test those ideas? And then how do you make it okay for them to fail? And how do you recognize them when they succeed? So if you show recognition when they succeed, it will just encourage and foster more ideas. There's programs and ways to do that, but it's just about the culture. It's just about having a culture that recognizes that and is okay with it.
It's I've got 10 questions in my head at once, and I'm trying to spit them all out at the same time, which is not working. The thing about kind of rewarding success is I totally agree. The question I have for you on it too is on the failure side, I often find that, people get the long belabored conversation about why something didn't work, and then they wrap it up in a pretty bow, they put it on the failure shelf, and then while everybody says it's okay, they're not treated like it's okay. And, they're shoved to a smaller project, they're minimized a little bit. How do you deal with the failure then so that it actually truly is okay?
Well, I think so. I mean, the reality is when you look at somebody failing on a project, they usually get dealt with in two ways. One, they're either fired, or two, it affects their bonus. And that's not how we operate. We don't fire people. We're actually, it's very, very few people move out of our company. And if they do, it's not because they had an idea and they failed on that idea. It's just simply about making sure that people know if you fail, it's okay. We don't want to fail twice on the same thing. You don't want to make the same mistake twice, but it's okay. We tried, it didn't work. What's next? And I think if you ask most people at our company, they would tell you that we're very open-minded and flexible as a business. And you just need to keep reinforcing that message.
It's the other thing I want to loop back to that you said was about the frontline staff being so full of ideas and information. I mean, they are the ones that are in front of your customers 20 hours a day or 20 hours a week. So of course they have the insight that we in the offices don't have. And I have to say, Jeff, I find it very visionary of you to really recognize that, because that's not actually something most organizations do. They tend to look at that as the low-level employee with a lot of turnover. Yeah.
And look, turnover, I watched a Simon Sinek video last night, which I found really interesting, about how there are companies out there that never fire an employee, which is a really interesting philosophy. And one that had me racking my brain a little bit. At first, my natural reaction was, "What? That sounds crazy." But as I thought more about it, their philosophy is we do a heavy diligence and recruiting process to make sure we're hiring the right people. And then at that point, once they're hired, they're never going to move out of the company. They're going to get constant development and coaching where they're falling short, which makes the team feel safe. And you got to make your team feel safe if you want them to take risks. That's a real interesting way to make them feel safe, by saying you can never lose your job. You can leave, but you're never going to lose your job.
Well, and it begs the question of, is it the wrong person, or is it just simply the wrong fit and we haven't figured out how to utilize them? or give them the right resources too. And then sometimes that question gets overlooked. But I've also decided, by the way, just so you know, that I would like a job going from park to park, as you said, bouncing on the trampolines purely, of course, for observational research to see how people behave, not because I like the idea of just having fun all day.
Yeah, we can give you that job.
I might submit a resume after this, so we'll look out for it.
We're hiring.
Awesome. And I can't get fired, right? So perfect. So, you've said a few times about you have to adapt, you have to change, you have to be flexible. What changes or trends are you seeing coming down the path that are greatly going to impact not just SkyZone, but I think overall this category that you're in of fun and entertainment?
Well, I think everything today, thanks to Amazon, is about convenience. If it is not easy to transact with your business, then consumers they don't have the time. They don't have the patience. We are used to now getting what we want at our fingertips in 2 or 3 clicks and no more. And Amazon, we have to thank for that. Maybe many people don't want to thank them for that because it's making everybody, even though we don't compete with Amazon, but at the same time, Amazon has changed a culture out there that we want everything at our fingertips. So we look at our business and we say we have to remove friction. How do we make it easy to do business with us? How do we develop more locations in convenient spots? How do we make it easier to buy tickets online? How do we make your experience inside of our park easier once you get there? Everything has got to be about ease and convenience. And I don't care what business you're in today, you've got to be focusing attention and energy on that.
Well, I was just having this conversation with someone else the other day that no matter what business you're in, you're being compared to their experience with Amazon, Zappos, Disney, Apple, like whoever it is that they love. That's who you're being compared to. So if it's not as fluid and fun and beautiful as Apple, then it's not as good. It's plain and simple. I don't care if you're in the food business or, anything else.
Yep.
Yeah. And, so I want to ask a little bit about the friction because I find that kind of fascinating, especially because just to, put the card on the table, we recently went through a friction exercise at my company and realized we had some places where we had massive friction and we didn't know it. So when you talk about it, what are you looking to accomplish with that?
With the removing friction?
Yeah.
One of the areas is our website. It's relatively cumbersome to buy tickets online. It's too many clicks, too many buttons, too much information that has to be put in. And it's frustrating. And I don't know the exact percentage offhand, but we know that certain people get through that process and we lose them because they just say, oh, hell with it. And that may mean, oh, hell with it, I'm going to come and buy them in park. Or it may mean, you know what, I'm not going because I just, I was on my mind for the moment and now it's not because I'm frustrated. So we've been working pretty diligently with our third-party POS provider to make that whole process of buying tickets online much, much easier. We then bring that in park and we're working on making the experience from check-in process to jumping. We're trying to remove all the friction associated with that process. So we want to reward those because we want to encourage people to book online. So we want things like fast pass lines, which is something that's been around for a while and something we've been slow to adopt. So that if you've booked online, it's much easier for you to get your jump ticket, get your socks, and get to play faster than if you hadn't purchased them before. So it's how do we remove those little tiny points of friction, like the one with birthdays I just mentioned. Mom's not upset at us because there's no parking spaces. We can't, if our park is busy and parking spaces are taken outside, that's good for us. That frustrates mom. So how do we make life a little bit easier for her? How do we make mom or dad who's carrying these presents, how do we make it so that they don't have to travel very far? So little points of friction add up. It's not just one big thing.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that a lot of those things, to your point about adding up, can really impact their experience with you, even when there are things that seem like they're out of your control.
Yep. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they're all your brand, whether you do it or not, in the eyes of the consumer, it's your fault.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
That's okay. That's our responsibility as a brand. That's okay. You've got to accept that and you've got to know that.
So, my next question is, so you have such incredible experience. What advice do you have for LaunchStreet innovators out there who are looking, to build something like you've done, who are thinking, I want to build something that incredible?
Find a mentor. Find somebody who's done it before, who you trust and is willing to give you the time of day to help guide you through those challenging, rocky days that you're going to have. I've had a mentor for the last 6 years, and the business wouldn't be where it is today without that person. The other thing is just trust your gut. We spend a lot of time over analyzing things, and we live in an imperfect world, and you never have all the information you need to make a decision. So you gather what you can, and you use a little bit of your gut instinct, and you just go for it. That's what being an entrepreneur is all about. Just take the risk, just jump, for lack of a better term.
Do you think part of your success, and maybe this is, personally as well as professionally, has been the ability to make quick decisions? And by quick, I don't mean, impulse. I mean that mix of getting just enough data and trusting your gut versus, constantly gathering the data or not having enough data, I guess.
I think that plays a role. I'm a risk taker. So, I'm comfortable doing that. And there's people on my team, by the way, who are not, which is good. You need balance. So I think the business has grown because of the people we have. I don't think I have anything to do with it. I think we have good people that balance each other out, that are comfortable challenging each other and making, good decisions. And by the way, we make a lot of bad decisions. So, it is about making a fast decision, but it's also about failing fast and knowing that when you fail, you got to course correct. And how quickly can you course correct is really going to determine how successful you can be.
So I'm going to venture to say that when you're talking about that and failing fast, that you have a process built in or a way to test ideas before you're going to do it like a full launch. Because I think sometimes small and large businesses wait till the full launch. And then when it's a failure, it's epic.
Yes, it is. We do a lot of testing of ideas, especially before we roll them out. And that IT project I mentioned before, we didn't fail fast enough there. That was a great lesson of, you could inherently in my gut, I could feel something was wrong, but I kept trying to plow forward, and I should have listened to my gut, and I didn't, which I do a lot. And in this case, I didn't. So we didn't fail fast enough there, but we do like to test things when we have ideas and we go forward with something. We need to test it live in our parks, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what our CMO thinks. It really matters what our guest thinks. And we've got to test our ideas with them. And we do a lot of that.
I just want to take a pause on what you said, because you said it fast, but I think it is so freaking important for LaunchStreeters out there to know that what Jeff just said about you've got to test the ideas live, I think matters more than anything when it comes to innovation, because we really don't know on paper or in the boardroom or even in a focus group what's going to work until we see it in action. So do you guys do that in every time? Because I think that's essential.
We do it a lot. And it largely depends on the resource allocation and dollars that are needed associated with an idea. So if it's a big idea that needs a lot of cross-functional collaboration and it needs a lot of resource in terms of team and money, we're going to test it more. If it's a simple idea that doesn't need a lot of team and resource behind it, and is easy to implement, we'll test it less. So it's in every case we're creating, in every new idea, we're creating a business case. What is the business impact this is going to have, and what is the resources that are needed to be allocated towards realizing that business impact? And depending on how big that is, will determine how much we're going to test.
So there's two things I'm hearing just as I think patterns in this conversation. One is you clearly have a very customer-centric focus in how you run your business, gathering data, having frontline staff give you insights, what you said about just testing stuff. The other thing I'm getting a sense of, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you in particular willingness to be transparent. What's working, what's not working, how we deal with failure, things that are, we're happy that have worked and things that haven't. I would venture to say that those are probably two very big parts of why you've been able to grow the business.
Yeah, there's no magic bullet. I think growth in a business is about hard work first and foremost. You got to work hard. You got to find team, and you got to be passionate about what you're doing. I think Steve Jobs said this really well, but he said to be successful, you've got to be passionate, and so passionate about what you're doing, because only a sane person would quit. And he's so right, because you have to be insane as an entrepreneur to do what you do, to take the risks that you do, to put everything on the line, to work your butt off to make it happen. It takes a level of insanity. And it's your love and passion for it that drives you to keep going when everybody else, the sane, rational people, look at you and say, what are you doing? You're sacrificing so much here, but you like love, you're blinded. So, you're willing to do anything for it. And so it takes passion, hard work, a level of crazy. Any entrepreneur who says, I'm a sane person, okay, is insane as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I suddenly feel very validated in my craziness, one, but how do you
be comfortable with it?
Yeah, I'm good with it now. I'm just going to wear it on my sleeve. How do you stay passionate and so insane and focused during the tougher times?
I think it gets back to that mentor. Having a sounding board for somebody that I can go to talk about these things and help me see through problems that, when you're in every day are sometimes hard to see, is extremely beneficial. The other thing I do a lot wrong. I have a lot of faults. One skill that I think I've developed over the years is emotional intelligence. And I try not to overreact. Yeah, it is, and everybody's always looking at the CEO. And so you got to maintain a really sort of even keel. You can't, your highs are going to be high, your lows are going to be low, but you got to sort of maintain that steady state. You can't bring emotion into the workplace. You make emotional decisions, they're almost always going to be wrong. So, find a sounding board who at times you could almost say is like a therapist, and really focus on how you can develop your emotional intelligence.
I think it was when I went to see Tony Robbins once, he said something, I'm going to paraphrase and probably botch it up. It's something like, great leaders don't see things any worse or any better than they are. They just see them for what they are. And that's not as eloquent as how he would have said it. But I think that's a little bit of what you're saying of.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, we've actually been to a SkyZone and my kids love it. So I totally get kind of what the experience is. For everybody else out there, share with them, if I were to come into SkyZone, what kind of fun, you said, I think play our way in the beginning. What does that mean? What kind of experience do they expect to have?
They should expect, we are trying to focus a lot of attention on the feeling we want people to have when they come to our parks. And the feeling that we're going after is that you come alive. And you do that through different types of play. So whether it's jumping on a trampoline, whether it's competing in a dodgeball game, whether it's slam dunking a basketball for the first time, or doing a flip into a foam pit, or getting through our warrior course as fast as you can, or jousting, or climbing up a ladder that's moving, or climbing a rock wall, you feel totally present in the moment and you feel alive. There's a great quote from Plato that says, you learn more about a person in an hour of play than a year of conversation, because you are your most true self when you are playing. You are literally your best version of yourself. Your phone's not out. You're not thinking about what you're doing tomorrow or in 3 hours or what worries you have. You are present in the moment. It is a form of meditation almost. And it's something that we need more of today in society. We need to figure out how we can disconnect and engage in what we are doing in the here and now, and that's what we're going for. And it's not like an 8-year-old says, you know what, I'm looking to be present, so I'm going to go SkyZone. They're looking for fun and excitement and thrill and competition and social interaction, and we give them all that. That's part of the experience. But the one common feeling, whether you're 8 or 12 or 15 or 35 or 55, if you're at our park and you're engaging in our way of play, you feel alive. You naturally just smile. And that's what we're going for. That's what we hope we can deliver for you.
I love it. And for everybody out there, go and experience it. It is fun. Jeff, now that we know each other, I will tell you that one of my good friends had her, I think it was 37th birthday party at a SkyZone. So there was a bunch of us older ladies jumping on the trampolines.
That's awesome.
It was the best birthday party ever, I'm not going to lie. And the warrior course I crushed it. It was phenomenal.
Amazing. Amazing. Love hearing that.
I know. It was so much fun. So where should people go to learn more, connect with you, get to a SkyZone by them?
Obviously, our website, skyzone.com, lots of information there. Can take a look at every single one of our locations and the offerings. I'm a pretty active guy on social media. So, I've got a Twitter handle, Platt Jeff, an Instagram, Jeff A. Platt. I'm young, I'm out there. So, LinkedIn, all those fun things that allow us to sort of have a voice in the world. You can find me.
And the last question for you is, what's the one thing people would be surprised to learn about you? So a hobby, passion, experience.
Probably that's a good question. One thing, I'm a fanatical hockey fan that grew up in Southern California.
How did that happen?
I'm like one of 12 people in Southern California. I think growing up, Wayne Gretzky was a hockey player, and he was coming to LA. So there's a lot of buzz, and it's actually a way that I like to disconnect. I love the sport. I love going to games, and I think the other thing is, I'm just a normal 33-year-old guy. People think CEOs are, there's something different about them and so exciting about their lives. I spend my weekend like everyone else does. It's with my wife and my dog, no kids yet. And it's hiking and walking and eating and doing the basics, sitting on the couch. I'm no different than every other person on this planet.
Well, I'm not sure what to say about the hockey, although I'm a little bit older than you, but I did grow up with the whole Wayne Gretzky thing. And anyone who's a dog person is all right in my book. So, Jeff, thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic. Again, LaunchStreeters out there, go check out SkyZone. It's amazing. Connect with Jeff, but go experience it, because really, if you want a good laugh, you should see me and my friends all bouncing around on trampolines, like trying to, push the 10-year-olds out of the way. Like, this is my trampoline. It was bad. But anyways, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks for hanging out with us inside LaunchStreet. When you're ready to take your game to the next level, join the thousands of others that are upping their innovation edge on GoToLaunchStreet.com, the top online education resource and community platform for innovators looking to use innovation to get measurable results. Go to LaunchStreet.com.